Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Getting Started with Think or Swim. I am filling in for Cameron May, who typically teaches this class today. But I am a coach and senior manager also with Charles Schwab. And getting to cover this Getting Started with Think or Swim and an overview of Think or Swim is like, for me, a bit like a kid in a candy shop because I do really love this platform. And we're not going to be able to get in really deep to things today, but you can cue Julie Andrews because I'm looking forward to showing you a few of my favorite things. Now, the one thing I had to do some homework on was how to download Thinkorswim because it has been some time since I've done that. But I'm going to show you where you can access that if you are brand new to this. So is there anyone here who has not downloaded this yet? To downloaded Thinkorswim to their platform. And if not, no worries. I'll show you where to access that. And I'm looking forward to it. We have got Mr. Brent Moores with us in the chat. He's a friend and fellow coach. And I have learned a ton about this platform from Brent Moores. So, he knows this platform inside and out. So if you've got questions, please don't hesitate to type them into the chat if you're here with us live. If you're watching this in the archives, as many people do, know that you can type your questions into the comments down below. And, I will answer those. I look at those on a daily basis. So just before we get going, if you are not following Brent and I in the Land of X, we're posting content there on a daily basis. And it's just a free resource. It's a way for me to be able to communicate with you and you with me outside of events like this. So we've got several people that haven't downloaded it. So I'll show you where to access that. And I see a lot of the usual suspects in here. So to Sharon and Scott and James and Susan and Riceberg and Lawrence and the rest of the gang, thank you for continuing to show up. And for those of you that are new and here for your very first time, know that we meet on a weekly basis. In fact, we are, teaching classes basically from the time the market opens until it closes, and after that on a daily basis. So lots of content you can access live from Monday to Friday, and the majority of that is then available in the archives if you have something like a JOB or something that, or maybe you want to be out golfing or hiking or skiing or whatever. And I want to welcome you newcomers. Yeah. So Jim said he's going to be in Chicago next month. So I'll talk about that a little bit too. We offer live events. Those are also free to attend. We'll provide breakfast. We'll provide lunch at the market drives. We'll even have a really nice reception at the end of the day. We'll even cover your parking. So they're a pretty cool deal. But yeah, to follow Brent and I at Barb Armstrong CS, at Brent Moore CS. So just know that everything that we cover in this class is for educational purposes only. None of it to be construed as a recommendation on the part of Schwab or myself. We will be using the Paper Money software application on the Thinkorswim desktop platform today for all of our examples. And just know that, like, if an option example comes up, know that options carry a high level of risk and aren't suitable for all investors. Paper Money is a brilliant place to learn. And everyone that has a Thinkorswim account has access to Paper Money. So it looks like, smells like, feels like your real account. But there are some nuances and differences, and I'll discuss those kind of as we go along. Okay, so Cameron, who typically teaches this class, in addition to these 8 series overview classes, he also covers a lot of other topics, but we could spend the whole class talking about any one of the tabs that I'm going to introduce you to today. So you're going to get kind of a high level overview. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. So let's first of all go to the schwab.com. And you may say, like, why are we going to schwab.com if we're talking about the Thinkorswim platform? And it's because when you sign into your account, and this is a demo account, you can see I've got vast resources in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to come to the trade tab. And when you come to the trade tab, you can then come over to these trading platforms and Thinkorswim desktop. And when you click on that desktop, it will bring up these Schwab trading platforms. And you can see there's the desktop platform. And you just click this and it will walk you through how to download it. Now, if you run into any hiccups, Schwab has a great 1-800 line. Their customer service is superlative. Don't get frustrated. Just know that you can call and get help walking you through how to install it if you need to as well. There's also a Thinkorswim web platform that we won't be talking about today, but Brent Moores has recorded a number of training videos on this if you're interested, and also on Thinkorswim mobile. So today, this is where you go to download it. Okay, so there's step one if you're new to all of this. So the first thing I want to draw your eye to is this section here. And we call this the gadget section. And you'll notice I've signed in here and it says PM, that stands for paper money, simulated trading. And what I've done is I've made this chart pink. If I'm trading in my live account, I've made the background a different color. Or you could make it dark and have this screen be black. And so some people, they'll make their live account and their paper money account look distinctly different so that they don't make a mistake and place a trade where they think they're practicing and they're not. When you first sign in, this paper money account has 511,000 in it. And if you want to see how your last 5 trading days are gone, you can click on this and it says, well, were you to have liquidated this account in the last 5 days? Like on April 4th, this account was worth 505,000. It's now worth 511,736. Okay. So you just click on this little arrow beside liquidating and trades. Now, what if you're at the office or you have family visiting or something and you don't want them to see how much money is in your account? Or if you're on your monitor tab and you scroll to the bottom, it will show you, how much you've made so far this year. If you want to keep that private, you can click this little arrow beside option buying power and then click privacy. Okay, and then bada bing, bada boom, all of this stuff at the bottom here and all of this stuff at the top is private. On this section, I tend to have 2 things. One, and just let me come over here. I've got multiple screens going. I am going to add something called live news. Oh, I already had that. I thought I had it here. So these are the 2 gadgets I use the most. So one is watch list, and you can, this is an S&P 500 sector watch list. So we can see if I open this up a bit, and to make this bigger, I just click on this grab bar in between this and the other tabs. And I can, so we can see this shows us the 11 sectors that make up the S&P 500. And if I click, what I've done is I've linked when you first open this, it will have a little paper clip, and I'm going to say, I want to link this to my chart. And then I come over here and I make my chart the same number. And then I can do the same here with live news, is I can link this. And so what does this live news kind of tell us? And we're going to use Chubb as an example today. So we're going to use CB. But we could use any stock. And so if you want to see the latest news on this company, you can just kind of scroll down and have a look. Oh, this is Marvell still. And, it will say, well, they've adjusted the price target to 374 from 339, or Goldman Sachs moved it up to 372, Barclays to 374, and you can just scroll through. And if you want more detail, you can click on it. Okay. So this just kind of gives you some, interesting news on a stock, and this you can bring up watch lists on. And so, like, if we look at today, I mean, has been an extraordinary day in the markets, just as, on this day that we're recording this. So if we look at the S&P 500, it's up 2.5% today. The NASDAQ is up, 3% today. And so if we wanted to look at these sectors and say, which sectors are doing well today, we could say, ooh, look at financials. I mean, they're up 2.7%. Maybe there might be some opportunities here in the financial sector. So I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but for now, I'm going to close the gadgets, and we call that toolbar on the left-hand side the gadget, and we are going to look at the monitor tab. Now, the monitor tab has all your positions. So the very first time you open Thinkorswim, any positions you have in a brokerage account will show up here. In fact, like, I have 2 accounts here. One for my trading a smaller account class, and this one for all the other classes. And when you first open it up, everything is going to be in one group, and that group is going to be called unallocated. And so if you want to sort things out, you can create groups. So I've created a group for dividend stocks, a group for growth stocks, a group for stocks with targets, which is a shorter term trading strategy where we're saying, like, maybe I want to keep these stocks as part of my longer term portfolio if all goes according to plan. And maybe these I'm trading because I just want to make a little bit of extra money that I'm going to pull out of the account for income. And so when it goes up, if I make $500 or $1,000, maybe I want to put that in my vacation fund, or, my buy a new car fund, or, go to Paris for Christmas fund, whatever you want. So, yeah, so somebody said, can you show me how to create a group? So let's say I come over here and I want to add a group. And I want it, so you'll get this little thing saying, well, what do you want to call the group? And I'm going to call it Paris for Christmas. Like, I'm just making something up. This is just an example. And so my examples, so if I say, well, I'm doing this trade because I did this trade on Target, which has a target on it, because I want to generate some income to take me to Paris for Christmas. So I can then right click once I've created the group and say, I want to move this to my Paris for Christmas group. And I want to move this Cisco trade to my Paris for Christmas group also. Now, I could say, well, I want to go to Paris for Christmas, but I also want to buy a new car, and so with FCX, I could say, well, I want to move it to a group, but there isn't a group yet for buy a new car. So I'm going to create a new group for, and I'm just having a little bit of fun here. So if you want to log out, and you can actually have both paper money and your live account open at the same time. But if you want to log out, you hit the X. And then when you go to sign in, let me bring up another, move this over. So this is paper money. So when you go to sign in, you're going to sign in like you're signing into your live account, only you're going to toggle from live trading to paper money. And if you want your paper money to look totally different, if you come to this sprocket, you can say, make the color scheme dark so that when you sign in, it looks totally different. Yeah, Jim is saying there's a Paris in France. There's also a Paris in Ontario, Canada. So I could drive my new car there. I'm glad you guys are embracing the humor here. Now, where did my buy a car? So my buy a car showed up here. If I want these to be at the tippy top, I can then come here to my buy a new car, or it could be a slightly used car, and move up, and then move up. And now it's at the top. So you can move it up or down, or you can say, like, you know, I was being silly. I'm going to delete this group so I could move FCX out of this. But this is the default, the columns that are defaults. And one of the columns is days. And it's like, well, days to what? Well, this is days to expiration if it's an option, and we don't need that column. But I'd like to know how much money I have invested in this. So maybe I want to put in net liquidating value. And maybe I'd also like to know what sector it's part of. So I can come to this sprocket here and say, get rid of days. I don't need that. Oops. I've done this before, honest. So I'm going to remove that. And then I'm going to come over here and type in net liquidating value, or net. It'll say net liquid. This was, were I to sell it now, what would it be worth? So I'm going to put that in, and maybe I want that to be above the profit and loss percentage. And then maybe I also want to know what sector it's part of. And you can customize these. These are customized by group. So you'll notice now that my days column is gone, and I've got, you know, this is a $4,000 position. You know, we're up 2.74%. And if you're saying, well, when did you buy that? Well, I can click here, right click, and say view trade. Say, oh, you bought that February 9th. And there's a little box here, that's a note. And it says, oh, this is a swing trade. So if I look at the chart, I probably have this on my chart. Yeah. And so let me just change this. And if you want to put your target on your chart, you can come up here to your working orders and say, well, you know, what's your target? Looks like I don't have one in here. Was this FCX? So my target, I may want to put a target on that. And if I wanted to add like a stop loss order on that, I can right click and say create closing order. And you know, this is just to show you how to do this. And I'm just making up a number. We could say if this goes below $60, get us out. Now, I haven't looked at a chart. This isn't a legitimate, you know, number. And with stop losses, if it's a stop market order, there isn't a guarantee that we'll get out at the price we've requested. So that's our stock with a target. Now, if we wanted to add a target, we could do that also. Oh, now this went into our stock with target group. I forgot that I'd moved it to the buy a car group. So if I have a working order and I now look at FCX, I can come in here and say, hey, I want to move this to a different group. It will, you'll notice that it won't let me put it in this group because that's where it already is. I'm going to move it up to the buy a car. Okay, so with the monitor tab, we can customize groups. There's lots of other cool things I can show you. I just recently redid a recording that had thousands of views, and it's just a 10 or 12-minute video on all about the monitor tab. And so I will put a link in. I'd put a link in the live chat. I will put a link in the show notes below if you want to go and watch that. And before the end of the webcast, I'll show you how to access that also. Okay, so that's a few quick things. And then you can see today we had 4 orders that were filled. You know, and one was on Marvell. So if we look at our chart on Marvell, and you may say, well, if this was a stock with a target, you could see, because I put a line on the chart here, that we had a target of 113, and we ended up filled on that. And so if you're saying, well, can I see that? Yeah, Greg is saying I should create a buy gas group also. Yeah, I guess I could. So if I want to see how this trade turned out, I can then come from activities and positions, which is all the current positions that we are in that we have not yet exited, and come to account statement. And if I type in Marvell, we can see we bought it for $98.89 and it hit our target at 113. And if you're saying, well, how did you pick that target? If we come to order history, I like to use a feature called notes. And so with notes, when I click on that, our target was based on an inverted head and shoulders pattern. So let's do an example trade. Let's go now to the trade tab and I'll show you how to put in a note. I also did a short video on how to use notes. It's about 6 minutes, 7 minutes long, I think. And that'll be posted on Friday. So, but I'll show you where you'll be able to access it. So we're going to come to the trade tab. Well, actually, we're going to start with a chart. We're going to look at Chubb. So Chubb, you know, we looked at the financial sector, and Chubb is part of the financial sector. And we can see that, you know, this is a stock that has been uptrending. It's had a few ups and downs, like many stocks in the last month or so. It's been pulling back. And from a technician's perspective, like somebody who looks at the charts, they might say, I see a diagonal resistance breakout, because it was going sideways and it kept hitting its head here on this line. And now it's broken through and it looks like it's using this former ceiling or resistance as a floor. And so what if we said, you know what, I'd like to buy some Chubb. And Chubb is a Swiss-based company. So, you know, that's listed here on a US exchange. So we might say we want to put a target in, say maybe around that 345 mark. And so I'm going to change this to 345. And you might say, well, when I draw my line, I get a skinny black line. Like, how did you make your line blue? Well, you just right click, edit properties. And so I said, show price on the right. The other thing is the default is not to show the price. So I said, change it to show price on the right, make it blue, make it a dotted line, and make it a little thicker, and then save that as a default. So if I wanted to change this from blue to green, save that as a default, my line is now green. And then I wrote up at the top here, target, if I want that, and this is a swing target, so we're trading back to the previous high. We're going to say show that on the right, so that when I'm monitoring my positions, I can see that this is my goal for the stock to go here. And why is that handy to see on the charts? Well, maybe the stock it could go down starting tomorrow, make no mistake. But what if it got up to 343.89 and then you get a candle pattern that's saying this uptrend party might be over, it might be about to pull back. You might say, hey, that's close enough to my target, I'm going to take it. Okay. So we're going to come to the trade tab. We are going to right click anywhere on this trade line and say buy custom. And we're going to do this with an OCO bracket. What does that mean? It means it gives me the ability in one fell swoop to both buy shares and put in my target price. And my target is going to be 345. 345. And then I'm going to put in a stop, and I'm going to make my stop 2% below that diagonal support line, or what I believe is now a support line at 313.32. I'm going to make them both good till canceled. And when I come to confirm and send, I get this confirmation block. And so you might look at this and go, okay, this position is worth 33,000, and you're going, ooh, I have a small account. I only have 35,000 in it. So that's not going to work. Maybe I'll buy 10 shares instead of 100, but I want to buy 100 shares. I want to sell when it goes up by $14.34 to $3.45, or if it comes down to $313.32, not going according to plan, so get me out. And if I don't put anything in here, it will go into the unallocated block. It'll go into that unallocated group, and then I can move it. Or I could just say, you know what? I want this to be part of my Paris fund. And the reason I'm putting this in, this target, is a swing target. So this is just to note that you're putting in to yourself, for yourself. Or if you're like I used to be, because I'm a student of this education, actually, and who became a coach after 5 years, you might want to say, April, what's today? April 7th, getting started with Thinkorswim with Barb. So you're going like, who recommended this trade? So you can put that, like, you can put whatever you want in here. It's not like the broker's going to look at it and go, what does she mean by this? I better not fill this position because I don't understand her note. Like, the note's just from you to you. So now that's been filled. Now, if I want to see, it usually won't work. You have to pick an account so it knows what you're working with. Okay. So when I come over here to Paris for Christmas now, I can see this Chubb position. Oh, we're up $23. Yay, us. Now, if I want to see the note, one of the column, you can add a column here that says notes. And you might say, like, I try and keep my monitor tab simple. I don't want to do that. You don't have to. Or you can try it and then say, okay, so for Chubb, this was a swing target. How about Cisco? What are we doing with Cisco? Oh, there's another swing target. And then Target we already looked at. Now, the other place you can see notes is under working orders. So if we come and look at Chubb, we can see that we had put a note in here. And this is our target and our exit. So these are working orders. And what will happen with this OCO is, let's say it goes up and hits our target, it will then cancel the other side of the order. Okay? Okay. All right, so we've had a quick look at the trade tab. We've looked at the monitor tab. On the chart, so you can see that when you first log in, your chart isn't going to look like this. So if you want to make your background a different color, if you come to the sprocket and then come to appearance, one of the things you can do is change it, and you go pink, like that's too girly for me. I want it to be gray. So you can make it gray. And if your volume bars, the default is for them to just be blue, but I kind of like them to match the up day or down day. So I come in to appearance and I say, make the volume bars the same color as the bars on the chart. And so, that's another choice that you have also. Okay. So we can customize things that way. I've also added these moving averages to the chart, and we can do that by coming to studies, edit studies, and then whatever you want to add. So this is a simple moving average. I just start typing it in, and then I added that 3 times. So you come, highlight it, click on it to highlight it, add selected. The default will be a 9-day moving average. And I've made mine 10, 30, and 100. But when you click on this, like let's say I wanted to add a 200-day moving average. And it's personal preference. I don't have a green line on my chart, so we could make it green. I tend to make them a bit heavier because I'm teaching. I want people to be able to see it. And hit OK. and then hit apply. Now, I've also got a MACD histogram. And so again, you can just type in MACD. And I chose the MACD histogram. And I just go with the defaults. So you hit apply and okay, and now we have a 200-day moving average on the charts. And if you're saying, well, that's, a little too cluttered for me, if you want to take a study off, you can just go to your edit studies and say, you know what, I don't really want that 200-day moving average there. I'm just going to lose that. Okay. Now, something I get asked about a lot is this year to date, month to date thing that I have on here. And so let me take that off. And I just think it's such a handy feature. And this is a script. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I wanted to activate. So this is a script, year to date, month to date, week to date. And if I want to add a script, to a chart or to a watch list, we come up to setup and then open shared item. And then we have to type this in exactly. In scripts, they're not a recommendation for use. L, J, Y, K, F, lowercase c, and 3. And they are case sensitive and they're not guaranteed as to accuracy, but they are kind of handy. And so if you import it, you're going to write a name down here that makes sense to you. I just added a short video on how to add scripts. So once you've added the script, then you can come to studies. And if you want to add a script to a chart, just start typing in whatever you called it. So I called it year to date, month to date, week to date. And I'm going to add it and then hit apply and okay. It'll say, oh, okay, well, year to date, the S&P is down 1%. Another really cool thing, I learned this from Brent Moores, is that under patterns, there's this little sign. If you click on that and then say show prices percentage, you can see that even though year to date it's down 1%, over the last 12 months, it's up 35.97%. Not too shabby. So if you've been running around the yard with Chicken Little, maybe she's leading you astray. Now, we were in correction territory at one point here. We were down over 10% off the high. So Chicken Little was doing her thing, but yeah, so that's how we add a script. Okay. So we've done that. And if you want more on these like short videos, one of the things you're going to want to do is make sure that you subscribe to the Trader Talks channel, especially if you're new, because this is kind of home base. And when you get to Trader Talks from Schwab Coaching, another free resource, what will come up here when you're on home base is whatever is currently being taught. If you come to the playlists, and if you're new to all of this, there's a getting started with technical analysis, a getting started with stock investing. There's a getting started with Thinkorswim, which is the one you're in now, getting started with options. There's all kinds of series you can tap into. But if you scroll down, I created a playlist of short videos. And there's another playlist now too called bite-sized content. So if you're new to looking at charts, I've got 13 so far in this series on different candlestick patterns, what's a hammer or a hanging man. And those tend to be about 2 to 5 minutes long. But if you scroll down to the very bottom, since we're talking about Thinkorswim today, there's, how to customize a Thinkorswim chart, 9 minutes. So if you just want some stuff on how to customize a chart or on how to place an OCO order, which we did an example of today, or on how to create sector watch lists using scans. And that's something we haven't done yet, is looked at the scan tab. So we're going to look at the scan tab and the analyze tab. And if I went a little quickly on adding a think script, or adding a script to a chart or a watch list. Here's a 6-minute video on that. The monitor tab, like, and Cameron spends a whole class on most of these topics, and rightly so. Yeah, so how do you do custom watch lists, custom columns for watch lists? So to do those custom columns, watch this one on watch lists on adding ThinkScripts. But basically, you're just, and sometimes this is kind of a bit like Trivial Pursuit. And I want to say this, guys, I am a coach. I have been looking at Thinkorswim since 2011, and it's now 2026. So 15 years, and I probably tap into 5% of what this platform has to offer. The things I use all the time, and the rest of it, I don't use that much. But there is, if we open this up, there's a little sprocket like there is on the monitor tab, and you just click that to customize. And I have a couple of scripts here. And in that how to add a script, I go over that. And these are the scripts for those customized columns. And when you come to the monitor tab, if you want to customize a column, anywhere there's a sprocket, that gives you the ability to customize. Now, let's say we have looked at these sectors and we've said, hey, financials is really popping today. If I look at the financials chart, could there be some opportunities? What stocks are in the financial sector? Well, we can come over to the scan tab and we could say, I just want to look at the stocks that are in the S&P 500, that if I come down to industry group, I'm going to pick financials. And I don't care if it's banks or insurance or, just let's select all financials and then run the scan. And we have 74 companies that are part of the S&P 500 that are part of the financial sector. And so if I want to be able to run this scan anytime, and the S&P 500 4 times a year rebalances, so they might add one new company or say goodbye to one new company or add 2 or 3. So it will give me the current list every time I run it if I save it as a scan. So I'm going to come over here to the second of this group of 3 lines and say, save my scan query. And I'm going to call it sector financials. So when I go to save it, it's saying, you already have that. You want to rewrite it? Sure. And then when I go to bring that up, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to come here to my personal, because this is now a personal watch list. And anything that has this little purple, to me, it looks a bit like a dartboard, has this purple dartboard beside it. It means it's a scan. So when I click on it, it's going to bring up the most current list. Now, do I use these? Yes, I do. But I also use on a very regular basis the public watch lists, things like, okay, the Dow 30. And here are the stocks that make up the Dow 30. And then if I link my chart and my watch list, and I can even link my trade tab, and I can also link my analyze tab, so that if I want to come and be looking at Chubb like we just did, and we want to come to the analyze tab, you may say Chubb, like I've never even heard of Chubb. Like, what's Chubb all about? Well, we can come down here. We're going to see a number of analyst reports. If we want, we can click on those and download them. We can see right here that it's part of the financial sector. We can see a description on this company. Oh, they're based in Zurich. Okay, so they're based in Zurich. So now I know that I could have, because it's an international company, perhaps currency risk and other risks, associated with that. It was incorporated in 1985. And then I can come down here and this gives me 5 years at a glance. So it's saying, hey, this number, our earnings per share grew by 13% year over year over the last 5 years. It went from $19 a share to $12. Ooh, that was a tough year. And then, it's gone from 12 in 2022 to 25. It's doubled, more than doubled in the last 4 years. Now, that doesn't mean just because the last 4 years have been good, that the next 4 years are going to be good, but this is, and, we can look at their sales per share. It's gone from 91 to 148. You can keep scrolling and come down and look at their price earnings ratio. The 5-year average is 12.5. That puts it in a value category for some investors, what they would call a value, where, like, if we look at, say, a Tesla, which is a more growth oriented company based in Austin now, its PE ratio is currently 416.41, the 5-year average 184. So quite dramatically different, right? But it just gives us a bunch of information. And then you can scroll down and there's more information here. The 80% of their business is automotive, 11% energy, service another 8%. So it's just a way to access a bunch of information. So, and we've only looked at one tab. This is the fundamental tab on the Analyze tab. But we've covered a lot. So what have we covered? Well, we've covered some stuff on the gadgets, how to give you privacy. We've covered how to create a watch list and live news. So we've pointed out a couple of the gadgets. We've shown you how to create a group and customize a group on the Monitor tab, how to look at a position that has closed out on the Monitor tab. We've looked at how to place a trade. We've looked at how to find some fundamental information on the Analyze tab. We did a quickie on how to create a scan. We've looked at a few of the features, and there's a ton of them on customizing a chart. And somebody asked, like, how can you make these bigger or smaller? You can just click the bars in between and drag if you want something to be bigger or smaller. Okay, so you can change the size of these. And, we've really just barely scratched the surface on the charts. And then there are a bunch of educational resources as well. But I think, we've kind of hopefully wet your whistle a little bit. I hope you, even the veterans that are here got, maybe a couple of tips that they weren't aware of before. And even like on the Monitor tab, like we can, if we're on activities and positions and we want something to have a bigger, role or a smaller role, we can do that. We can make sections bigger or smaller just by clicking and dragging. So, we could make this smaller to give us more room somewhere else if we want. Okay. So, I encourage you to do 3 things as we wrap up. 1, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. 2, hit the like button because it helps move this up in the algorithm so that more people can find this content. And then 3, follow Brent Moores and I on X, Barb Armstrong CS, Brent Moores CS. I'm also now on LinkedIn, so you can wander over to LinkedIn and find me there. And then if you are new to all of this and you're saying, what else do they have to offer? If you come to Schwab. I just love saying Schwab. Schwab.com/coaching. When you get in here, come to live webcasts and virtual workshops, you will see, everything being taught on a particular day. And if you say, well, show me the month at a glance, so you can see, like today is the 8th. What else is being taught today? Well, we've got, trading price patterns and then getting started with Thinkorswim. Up next, trading index options with the fantastic Mr. Ben Watson, and then stock investing for beginners. Okay. There's a getting started with technical analysis on Tuesdays. There's a getting started with options on Tuesdays also. I teach trading a smaller account on Mondays. Brent Moores joins Kevin Horner with Trader Talks on Monday. teaches a more advanced class called Condors, Calendars, and Butterflies on Friday. So there's tons to check out. And if there's one coach that you really like and you say like, well, you know, what else does Brent Moores teach? You can come here and you'll see all the classes that he's part of. Okay. Okay, so guys, that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep on coming back. Don't forget about those mini sessions you can tap into. I do post them on X as they become available also. Have a great one, everyone, and stay tuned for Trading Index Options.